a lot of these young people that are involved in, what politicians and police might call street gangs and all of that kind of stuff. It's only that because of how the dynamic works. Yeah, I guess you could maybe call it a gang, but in terms of having real, real power, it's not really doing much for them. They're living in an environment, in and amongst all of us, where they feel such anxiety that they are consistently in a high state of alertness. Now, I think is it the most, the time when you're most alert is probably in the morning, because you're waking up, you're very much taking in everything that's going on right now. I think some people take a little bit longer. You know how you have people that aren't morning people, so they might take, maybe a couple hours, 2-3 hours, maybe lunchtime starts to kick in, and that's when they kind of feel more alert. Some people are more alert like at night, like people like myself. I get up and I do the whole 9 to 5 thing, but like there's times when I might be, in the past I was making music, I was, producing and stuff. Now it'll be writing. So I might be writing a poem, I might be writing in my journal, I might be writing, about one of my books. I'm finding ways to stimulate myself in a way that makes me happy, I guess. I think that these young people, they found something that they like, which for the most part is money, because many of us are actually not necessarily living in poverty per se, but with very little money. Yeah. So you're probably classed as, under the poverty line. Yeah. You're living life. You might be driving. You might have your own place. You got bills to pay. Maybe you like to go on holiday, like once a year, or even twice a year. You know, some people can't even do that, like because they just don't have the money to do that, and it's a case of, okay, I want to have this, but this this option clearly isn't going to give me what I want now. I want it now. Let me go and do XYZ, get the money in a couple of days or a week or whatever, and boom, there we go. I've got the Gucci belt, the jeans, the bag, the hat, whatever it might be. I've got the LV, you know. I've got my missus, the Louboutins, whatever that might be, you know. It's a very materialistic world that we live in, but it's not necessarily that, because the world is material in itself. It's very capitalistic. But I think that a lot of the time, a lot of our perception of what capitalism is a little bit corrupted. Capitalism is good. Many of us are, we're actually undergoing a period of time right now, an era of, I think maybe in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, people have been starting their own businesses. So, whether you make clothes, or you make bracelets, or I don't know, you're doing like spiritual readings, or maybe you're doing like designs, like footwear designs on like trainers and stuff. shoes, whatever it might be. Some people might call it a side hustle. That might be your thing that makes you your money. If that's how you can get it, do that. Like, it keeps you out of trouble. It's legal. It's not hurting anybody. It's not, you're doing deals with people and nobody gets hurt. You know, people that are having to do pretty much anything to survive are very much living in that whole survival mindset. Like, how can you think about, what you're going to eat or where you're going to stay if you're having to think, I need to find money. I need to, like, constantly. Like, and it's actually quite an admirable trait to have to a degree, because what it does is it activates certain parts of the brain. I think this is why people that have gone on to create huge businesses, you know, the rumors are is that they've done a bit of stuff, previously. Now, kind of makes sense, but also it might not necessarily be the case. It's just a case where, and I do genuinely believe that there are things that we can do to stimulate certain feelings, certain emotions, certain points of motivation, certain triggers, almost, if you like, to actually get us into motion. So whether it's an actual physical event that occurs, whether it's a thought that occurs, whether it's something spiritual that occurs, or something you've observed, like, just that sense that you can decide from within yourself what you want to do and how you want to do it. That sense is in them as much as it is in anybody else. It's just in them a lot more. It's a lot more present. It's a lot more of a prevalent thought. And it becomes contorted because of that. So, you know, it is said that the whole issue surrounding young people is a thing because it's mental health. Like, think about the kind of environment that they're living in, the kind of lifestyle that they're having to live because of what they're involved in. That's not a normal mindset to have. Like, it's not. I can take a walk. You can take a walk to the shops just across the road in your local area and not feel any way. Doesn't matter, like, who you are, black, white, old, young, whatever. Like, you should feel comfortable enough to go to the shop, pick up, I don't know, a drink or whatever, and bring it back. But then you've got people that are thinking, okay, I need to look out the window before like, imagine having to look out of your window and then be looking over your shoulder the whole way on your way to somewhere. You might be on your way to your car and you're looking around, checking to see if anyone's there. You're checking that, inside the car to see if anyone's got in and laying down in the back seat or what. Like, that's all mad. Like, that is a crazy, crazy lifestyle. Like, seriously, I have to really almost push my imagination to kind of think about the kind of things that would happen. Like, thank, you know, thankfully we got like things like Top Boy that's bringing up a lot of these issues. We've got a lot of films that show us some sort of representation about what's going on in the world. It might be a local thing, it might be on a global scale, national scale, city scale, whatever. Like, There are things out there showing us something, reflecting back at us, the society, what is going on in society. And because it's deemed as entertainment, it's not seen as something that's actually noteworthy and worth perhaps mentioning to someone, perhaps having some sort of conversation with somebody over that, and about how to eradicate these kinds of things and how to minimize and eradicate, in fact. Because I think that part of the human nature is that we are perennially in this state of mistrust. We're perennially or forever in a state of non-trust. We're forever in a state of anxiety, forever in a state of fear. Like, we're all about survival. This is going back to what I was saying at the start. So if since our nature is to preserve ourselves, is to survive, is to not take any risks. When we have to take risks, when we start to take risks, is when we start to feel a bit uncomfortable, and it's quite easy to fall back into that. And this is how you get formed into groups, by that very feeling. It doesn't matter in what group you are, it could be even in the company that you work for. Like, you might feel so loyal to them that you would never leave. You know, you might feel like so at home in your area that you wouldn't, like, I know so many Londoners that have never moved out of their area. Like, they've moved out of home, they've maybe gone to uni, then they've moved back home and then moved locally, and it's like you don't know anything other than your own area. Like, how? Like, you see me, like, I'm from Birmingham, so I, and I cycle now as well. So I cycle from where I am in South, 20 minutes to get to work. If I'm a bit quicker, I can get there in about 16, 17 minutes. But I've worked pretty much all over London. I've lived in East, I've lived in like East Central, Hackney, I've lived in Stratford, Catford and Croydon and Leighton, and like, I've been around. The only places I haven't been in is like north and west. But right now I'm quite happy with where I am. I've moved around like quite a few times and I really don't need to be moving around. But anyway, as I was saying, yeah, like, you're living in such a heightened state of awareness that it's difficult for you to switch off. How could you integrate those people back into society? Because they've had to live in a certain way. If somebody gives them a certain look, can be completely like, you know, innocent. They're familiar with a certain look, meaning a certain thing. How are they going to respond? Like, it's certainly a mental health thing, because they need to, or the mind needs to adjust. Like, I can't imagine going to prison, but I would imagine that prison can be quite a head fuck. I can't imagine going to, like, you've got like these 10-day or 2-week retreats where you go away and you don't say anything, like Vipassana. And you're not allowed to talk. Like, during the sessions, you're not allowed to talk. Like, the idea is for you not to talk. The idea is for you to remain in your head. Like, it takes a particular mindset to be able to work within certain environment and work and function within certain circumstances. Like, you've got to be pretty determined, pretty resilient, to the point that you're committed to do something regardless of how you need to do it or how you might do it. it's a mental health issue. Like, people need to wake up and actually realize that, yes, the poverty, yes, you know, you might say the music, but I tend to believe that the music is actually a reflection of what's going on in and amongst us. The films, they've blamed, films before. Again, it's reflecting back at us what is going on in society. It's a mirror. Like the film, the silver screen is the mirror. It's showing us what's going on. That's why it's called the silver screen, I guess. But at the same time, we all have a choice. We all have some means to use some level of discernment in regards to our choices. So if I choose to go down the uni route, go through school, college, uni, boom, do that whole route, whatever, like, or if I choose to leave and go straight into an apprenticeship and work my way up through a company, like if I choose to leave and go and work for my dad or my mom or my grandfather or my other family business, like if I choose to leave and maybe don't do anything and I just end up on job seekers, like people choose roughly their circumstances. What you are gearing yourself towards is going to determine pretty much your outcome. Like, there's no way for you to get around it. It's going to take a lot of hard work and a lot of effort from a lot of people. That means families, communities. And when I say communities, I mean communities in a wider sense, because we all know right now communities are pretty much fucking scared of one another. Like, nobody is really that interested in anybody anymore. Supposedly, anyway. I know that there are certain areas that are very friendly. You'll get to know your neighbors, the people on your street, people in your local area, like quite quickly, and you'll recognize them and become almost friends. You'll acknowledge them at least on the street. But there's places where people are so maybe stacked on top of one another that they're just sick of seeing people constantly. Like, the living environment, imagine that. Like, that that is a contributory factor to the anxiety, to the poverty, to the homelessness, and the issues, and the discord between, in within families. And that's, parents, mums and dads, and that's, others who are involved, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, maybe grandparents, and so on, cousins, etc., etc. Like, there's a lot of healing that needs to take place, and it's not just on the streets. It's not just, oh, these kids are just da da da. No, these children are a representation of, or they are a reflection of what is going on within us. So because these children are having issues, we have an external thing to say, no, you need to fix that. And we look to the government, and we look to, you know your Theresa Mays and your Tony Blairs and your Boris Johnsons and David Like, we look to those people, like, to help. Like, by that time, it's kind of already too late for you to try and change people in terms of, they're not a child anymore. They are not a child anymore, and that you can't talk to them like a child anymore. Like, it's not gonna work. When you're a teenager, especially, you're kind of, I wouldn't even say all over the place. I think people kind of overly dramatize it a lot. But I believe that it's a period of time when your mind is really trying to work out where it's trying to go. And if you get caught up in the wrong kind of thing, or in certain, actions, you get caught by certain waves, it will just sweep you along, and that's it. Like, you're gone. Unless you know how to get back to point A, then it's going to take you some time to have to work through that and come back around. That's if you come back around. That's if you're not dead or ending up in jail. Like, there are people who have managed to survive that and to get out. I love those people. I love and respect those people because you've had to go through, I don't personally understand, but you had to go through something that would raise a lot of terror in people. And to have gone through that and come out and to be living, a sort of normal, quote unquote, life is something, whether you've started your own business or whether you've, got a job in something, you know, whatever it might be, you're doing something that's legit, like that you're not having to watch over your shoulder for. Nobody can, pull you over and tell you that you're not supposed to be here, what you'd question you about what you're doing. Like, you're a law abiding citizen. And again, it's law, you know. And I think, and apparently there's a distinction between legality and law. So research those two things because I think they'll be quite interesting, and it even just the fact, like, research things full stop. But what I want to say just before I do go is, on the point of research, on the point of families and stuff, like, look out for your younger brothers and sisters, look out for your nieces and nephews, look out for your friends' kids, godchildren, whoever they might be. Like, if you're around them, like, be around them. Like, be, I'm not saying that you have to overly be there for them. I'm just saying, just acknowledge them. Let them know that you are there. If they need to talk at any point, they can come and talk to you. Not a problem. And I have to say that, erring with some caution, because some people just shouldn't, and you know who you are. Like, you're not very good at dealing with emotional topics very well, especially if a child is telling you something, perhaps about yourself, and you wouldn't really be able to deal with that very well. So, like, again, knowing self, get to know yourself, research yourself. Like, that should be the first thing that we do once we get to, like, I don't know, 12, 9, 10. Like, we should start researching self. Like, who are we? If you can start integrating that into your child's life while they're still 3, 2, 1, 6, like 9, like 10, you've got a very good chance of them harnessing that power that is deep within them, that is bursting to get out. We have a whole generation that's going to be incredibly powerful. You think about, what's her name, Greta Thunberg, or Greta Thunberg. Right now, she's a 16-year-old child who is on the world stage talking about climate change and stuff. Real activists, like, out there on the news and everything. It's amazing when you think about it like that. Whatever you actually believe about her reasons for being and about, climate change or global warming or whatever it is that they want to call it, so be it. That's your reasons. But the point is that there is somebody who is very significant, significantly young, significantly powerful in terms of voice expression, and she's young. Like, she has much further to go than, you or I, those of us who are 30, 40 plus, you know. She's coming up in a whole new generation and a whole new experience of what life's about. Yes, I was a teenager, much like some of you, much like, your parents and stuff, but you weren't a teenager in this time. This is why we need to connect with our young people, because if we don't connect with them, we won't. How do we understand them? How do we know what things are, what kind of things are going on in their life? This is what I'm saying. Like, just connect with them every now and then. Just connect. But yeah.